Good evening and welcome to our cloud computing session with Tidemi, where we are going to focus on AWS. So, in continuation from where we left it, in the previous video, we actually created our first, private network in the cloud. For those who have not watched that video, you can go back and watch that video and make sure you set up your own network infrastructure. So, let me just show you a recap. So, if I search on VPC, so I click VPC. So why it opens? You should know that VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and it is your own virtual private space in the cloud where you're going to launch most especially compute services. Okay, so we created our own VPC. In that VPC, we created two subnets, public and private. We had to attach internet gateway to our VPC, and we created two routables for the two VPCs. And also we created security, that's a firewall for the subnet, two for the public, one for public and one for private. We also had to, edit the inbound route to tell AWS that we want to accept only these rules, okay? The HTTP protocol, HTTPS, SSH, RDP, all ICMP and all TCP. So before you actually get here, make sure you understand what protocols are and the port numbers, which I think I've explained when we're talking about VPC, creating our first VPC. We also have our security group created, okay, two security group, one for the public and one for the private. So that is a prerequisite of what is needed for today's session. So today we are going to be talking about EC2. Okay, so basically I'll just open my EC2. You can search, you already know how to search. Okay, EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, you can create, manage, and monitor virtual servers. So these are basically virtual servers in the cloud offered to you by AWS over the internet, and it is, reliable, it's scalable. Okay, it is flexible. Okay, it comes with different costs. Okay, different types and all the rest. Okay, now this is your EC2 dashboard, which is a regional service. Okay, it's a regional service, which simply means if you create your EC2 in a particular region, you cannot access it in the other region unless you do something known as migration, creation of AMI, which we're going to see in the next video. So just to give you a summary of the EC2 dashboard, as you can see here, we have different instance type. Okay, now for those of you who have not, taken some basic knowledge or basic classes when it comes to the AWS Cloud Platform, okay, you can contact me directly for a one-on-one session, or you can as well download, okay, a detailed documentation on instance type on our website, which I'm going to attach at the end of this video to basically understand what instance type are. So these are different instance type, which are like what your computers come with different, categories and type, like i5, quad core, dual core, i7, and all the rest, different generation, 8 generation, 10 generation. Okay, it's the same thing in the cloud. In the cloud, our instances are of different generations, okay, are of different type, different family, okay, because we have in general the general purpose family, we have memory optimized family, we have storage optimized family, we have accelerated, compute. These are different servers in the cloud that you can use for different jobs and all the rest. Okay, so that is basically what instance type is. And an EC2 instance can be on demand. You can, reserve. You can go with a saving plan. You can go with a dedicated and all the rest. And still your EC2 dashboard, we have the AMI that help us to do what? To actually migrate. We'll be talking about migrating EC2 instance from one region to another, or one account. And AMI is going to help us do that job. And AMI is made up of what? It's a blueprint of your server in the cloud, a blueprint of your EC2. So I'm going to show you how to create one and all the rest. So we're going to also talk about, okay, the storage that comes with, or the storage that is being used by your EC2. Okay, it's like your hard disk drive of your physical computer, or your solid state drive, SSD. In the cloud, we call it the elastic block store, okay, or you call it the volume. So when you launch an EC2, it comes with a default volume. You can as well create a secondary one and attach. Okay, we have the HDD in the cloud, we have SSD of different type, general purpose, throughput optimized and all the rest. When we're talking about VPC, or when we're creating our first VPC, we saw what security groups are. As I said, it's an instance level firewall. It helps protect the traffic that goes into our into our EC2. Okay, now you know all computers need an IP address to communicate over a network, and since an EC2 is also a computer in the cloud, so automatically it needs an IP. We have both the public and the private IP, and we have a special IP called Elastic IP. And Elastic IP one, it does not change even when you restart or reboot your computer unless you manually give it back to AWS, and it is free when you're using it, which simply means you only pay for it when it's not attached to a particular resource. So we're going to see a key pair, which is a security mechanism that provides us security when we are connecting to our EC2 remotely. Then we are also going to see load balancers that will help us do what control traffic that goes to our servers, our EC2s. There are different types. We have the application load balancer. Okay, let me just click and show you. We have application load balancers, we have the network load balancers, and we have the gateway load balancers. Okay, just permit me. Okay, that is it. So if I click on create, which I'm not going to create, so these are the three most important load balancers you should know. We'll get there. And we also have lastly auto scaling group. Remember EC2 is scalable. So we are going to see how we can scale EC2, which means we're going to see how in a scenario where the traffic is high, we can automatically start and stop EC2 instances without manual intervention. So that is basically a summary of what EC2 is and its component and how its dashboard looks like. So before we actually move on in, launching, because the terminology is launching EC2, we are going to launch our first ever Linux EC2. Okay, remember computers are of different operating systems. We have the Linux operating system, Windows. Under Linux, we have different distribution like Ubuntu and the rest, Red Hat. We have the Mac iOS operating system. So before you actually launch an EC2 in the cloud, you need to know what you want to use it for and the type of operating system that will best suit your tasks on the cloud. Okay, so our first ever task will be to launch an Amazon Linux operating system, and we are going to see how we can access it using the web, okay, on our browser, and how to access it most especially, and one of the most secure method using a terminal emulator called PuTTY. So welcome back. In continuation from where we left it in the previous video, where I had to walk you through your EC2 dashboard and some components. So we are going to proceed. Okay, so before we actually launch our EC2, we need to, as I said, our first EC2 that we'll launch will be a Linux EC2. And one of the most secure ways to connect to your Linux EC2 instance is by using a terminal emulator called PuTTY. So I'm going to open my tab and I'm going to download PuTTY. So you need to download PuTTY. PuTTY is used for so many things. As a network engineer, we use PuTTY to remotely connect to our switches, and yep. So in the cloud, yeah, you're going to use PuTTY to remotely connect to your EC2 instance securely. So when you click download PuTTY, for those using Windows, all you need to do is you click on install. So it's going to open the Windows Store, Microsoft Store, where you need to download. Okay, so let's just wait. Yeah, this is PuTTY. All you need to do is you click to install. I already have it, so I'm not going to install. So you click install and you install PuTTY. So as I said, this video is strictly for those using Windows operating system, and we are going to have a session where we'll talk about those using Linux and Mac. So I already have PuTTY, so I'm not going to download, but I just wanted to show you that you need to download PuTTY. Now, when you download PuTTY, PuTTY comes in 3 variants. So if I search PuTTY that I've installed on my computer, that is it. We have the PuTTY, the actual emulator or the actual terminal that we are going to use. We have PuTTY Gen, which we are going to use it to, generate keys. There are basically two keys, key pair, which I explained. We have the PEM key and the PPK. Now, PPK key are strictly used by PuTTY. So if you make a mistake and you create a PEM key, which cannot be used by PuTTY, you can use a PuTTY Gen to generate a PPK key from a .pem key. And we have PGen. PGen will be used when we will be studying bastion hosts, when you want to access private EC2 instances from the public EC2 securely. So those are the 3 variants of PuTTY. Okay, so let me go back to our dashboard. So this is our dashboard. As I said, when you log in, go to your favorite region, and the criteria of choosing a region is choose a region that is closest to your customers, to your users. So you search, you can either come to the menu icon here and you search for compute services and you get EC2, or you simply search for EC2. So if it's your first time, okay, it's going to take you to the welcome page, which you can read more to know about EC2s, okay, and all the rest and other related services to EC2. So we need to launch our EC2. As I said, we'll be launching the Linux EC2. So take note, recall, make sure you have set up your VPCs and its basic component. If you have not done so, please watch the previous video on that. So I'm going to call this my first Linux EC2. You give it any name of your choice. So you need to choose the operating system, okay, the AMI. As I said, AMI in general holds the operating system and some components of your EC2. But at this stage, we need to select what in basic terminology, the operating system. These are the different systems: Amazon for Linux, Mac, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, and the rest. So we are going to go with this first. Linux EC2 instances. Please stick with the free tier. I know you have some dollars to spend. Yeah, but stick with the free tier. So we go with this. You can read the description as I said. Okay, and yep, I'll okay, we are going to provide a video where we explain EC2 instance type in details. Okay, these are the different AMI that you have here. Okay, the free and the not free. Take note, these are servers. These are Linux servers, not the normal Kali Linux and all the rest. But select any free tier of your choice. Okay, select any free tier of your choice. Let me see if I can go with the most recent. I'll go with this. Let me just go with this. Yes. So when you select the image, you need to scroll down and select the instance type. It's the same thing, please. Select the instance type. Okay. There are different instance type. There's T2 micro, there's T3, M5, and all the rest. Okay, we have the M7i. Okay, but just go with the free tier for now. So you can go with this. Okay, and key pair. As I said, key pair will be used or is important for the security. We'll be accessing this stuff remotely. Okay, so you need a key pair to increase or to add a layer of security where a public and a private key will be created. The private key will be given to you, stored on your PC, and the public key will be stored on AWS, where whenever you want to connect remotely, in our case, we'll be using PuTTY, you will need to provide that private key. And if they compare and it matches the public key that they have, then they're going to give you access. So you need to create one. Okay, so I'm going to call it my Linux key pair. I'll put it underscore US is one underscore TDMI. So that I know that okay, this particular key pair is being used, created in US is one, is a Linux key pair, and under this particular AWS account because I have so many accounts. Okay, the key pair type I'll go with RSA. Now, since we are using PuTTY, we'll go with .ppk. Okay, we are going to explain when to use .pem. Most especially .pem is used for Windows EC2 instances. Those having Mac and Linux, you need .pem. Okay, because you'll not be using PuTTY directly and all the rest. But as I said, whenever you create .pem and it happens that you want to use PuTTY in future and you need the PPK, don't bother. There is something called PuTTY generator, which I'm going to show you how to generate .ppk key from .pem. And if that's it, you create your key pair. So it's going to download. So you need to save it somewhere. I love to save my keys in one location. So that's it, save. So our key pair has been created and attached. Now we need to edit network settings. Remember, we need to assign the VPCs that we created. So I click on edit. So I'm going to choose the VPC that we created in the previous video. So I'm going to go with public because I want to create an EC2 in a public subnet, not private for now. So we need to enable this. Now, auto assign public IP must be enabled, or it is important to enable it for all public subnets. Okay, so here I had to manually do this because it has not been enabled. So let's just rush and enable that. So I'm going to open VPC in another tab and show you how to enable this. That simply means you're going to configure in a way that whenever you select public subnet, auto assign public IP will enable. Okay, so when you come to your VPC, go to subnet. Okay, select the public subnet. Please always do it for the public subnet. Go to actions, edit subnet settings, and that is it. You enable it. Okay, and you save. By doing this in future, whenever you create an EC2 in a public subnet, it will have public IP automatically. If you don't do that, you need to manually do it. And if you forget, your EC2 will not be accessible over the internet. Now for firewall, which is the security group, remember we created a security group. So I'm just going to select the public security group. Remember we had two, so I'll go with the public. Okay, and under advanced network configuration, you don't need to do anything here. In future, when we're talking about EFS and the rest, or an extra network interface card, the default storage for a Linux EC2 is 8 GB GP3, 8 yeah, 8 gig, and there are so many things under the advanced, which we are going to see that in the next video when we'll be talking about IAM role and user data with EC2. So that is the basic setting you need to set up an EC2, a Linux EC2. So we are going to launch. So we'll wait, we'll give it some time while launch. So they say fail. Oh, so insufficient T3 micro availability zone. Oh, so there's an error. So let me go back and see. Let me try to choose another image. Okay, we scroll down. T2 micro. It is, yep, I think that is good. And that's the only thing I will change. Okay, I've just changed the AMI. I've chosen another free tier. I've chosen see the T3 micro, and let's launch again and see. Okay, so we have successfully launched our EC2. So let's view that. So it's going to take some time because there are a lot of things that needs to be validated. So if you notice when you launch, the instance state goes to running, but take note, status check is here initializing. The status check needs to turn from initialization to 3 on 3 check. So till then we cannot use or we cannot access our EC2. So I'm going to pause this video and return only when the status check has turned from initializing to 3 on 3 check. So our EC2 instance, it's ready. You can see, okay, the status check has turned from initializing to 2 on 2 check. Okay, you see here we have a public IP, and remember, based on our VPC CIDR, private IP has been assigned. With this public IP, we can access or we can view what will be configured on our EC2 over the internet. So there are two ways in which you can, connect to your Linux EC2 instance to start configuring. One of the most common is to, the web. So you select your EC2. Okay, these are the metadata of your EC2 which you can verify. You click on connect. Okay, you can use the instance connect. Okay, you can use session manager, which we are going to see that in future. You can use SSH for those using Mac or Linux terminal. Remember, you can follow this procedure. Okay, even those using Windows, you can SSH directly on your command line following these steps. Okay, you can just read through and you know what to do. And the serial, which is something physical, is not, you cannot just forget about this for now. So for today, let's see how we can do this. So if I go under instance connect, okay, you see everything is ready here, and we can click connect. It's going to open a new tab. So why is doing so? Another method which I want to show you is by using PuTTY, which I told you about. Okay, I want to be rest assured that everyone has installed PuTTY on his or her Windows computer. And for you to be able to use PuTTY to access this, you need to copy the public IP. Okay, you need to copy the public IP. So you need to copy the public IP because you are going to need the public IP and the key pair you created. So before we actually go there, let's verify our instance. So when using the instance connect, when you select, you go to connect, you click Okay, it's going to open. This is my EC2 instance on the web. Okay, for those who know Linux command, you can start typing your command, point working directory ls to see hidden files. Okay, you can make create a directory. Okay, and otherwise you can configure stuff. So this is basically our Amazon Linux EC2 instance that we have launched and we can access. Okay, since in the public, we can ping the internet. Okay, because our security group and NACO has been configured correctly to ping the internet. Okay, so that is it. That is one way. Another way is by using PuTTY, which is one of the most secure and remote method. So I'm going to copy the public IP on my PC. I'm going to search for PuTTY. Okay, when you open PuTTY, under host name, you need to put the public IP here. Okay, make sure it's a public IP. Then to your left, expand SSH, scroll down and expand authentication. That's AUTH. Click on credentials. You click on the first browse. You browse where you downloaded your keypad, the one we created. For me, here is mine. Open. Okay, when you attach your keypad and make sure your public IP has been attached here, you click open. Now, if your security group has not been well configured, it will not go. If your internet is not stable, you will see some error. But everything is working on well. If it's your first time, the security alert will ask you, do you want to accept, connect once or cancel? So we're going to click on accept. Now it's going to ask you to log in. So the default username of all Linux EC2 instances is EC2 the hyphen user. For Ubuntu is Ubuntu, for Windows is administrator. So you can actually see that here. When you come back here, you select your EC2, you go to connect. Okay, that is it. That is the username. We don't have any custom username for now. So we'll go with our default. So EC2 hyphen user and you hit enter. So it's going to authenticate you. It's going to verify that the key pair you attach it matches the private one. It matches the public one because the private one is what you have. So the key pair you attach matches the what? The public one that AWS has. So if it's successful, that is your Linux EC2 instance. As I said, if I type ls, you will notice, remember, this is the directory we created on the website. It's still there. Okay, you can still ping the internet to be sure that it's in the public subnet and all the rest. So that is basically how you can launch your first ever Linux EC2 instance in the cloud, access it through the web or securely and remotely through PuTTY and other ways. So that is it for now. Stay tuned. In the next video, we're going to see how you can actually launch an Ubuntu EC2 instance. We're going to see how you can actually launch a Windows EC2 instance and connect to it using another tool called ROG Remote Desktop Protocol. Okay, so thank you. Stay tuned. See you in the next video and bye for now.